And it is officially connecting right now. And should take a second, but it says we're connected, which means that we should be live at this point on time on both Facebook and on YouTube. I'm super excited. Listen, y'all, we're here again for Throwback Thursday Support Black Business Series. And I am super excited to be here today because we have a special guest that I've known for some time, for many, many years, decades. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about what he has going on, how he's gotten to where he is, and then where he's going, so we could understand how we could support his business and his growth, right? As much as he does in our community. But before we get started, I want to go ahead, let me just make sure you see the shirt. Yep, so ColumbusBlack.com, we've been around since 2005. Something special about that is that means it's 18 years that we've been in business connecting the Columbus community to commerce and to culture and tapping into the Black community, make sure we know exactly what's going on. And what I'm excited about is the Support Black Business Series, which is why we're here today. Now, the cool part about our guest today is not only we're talking about how we can support him, but he has supported our business. So he supported Columbus Black in the past. So to see this come full circle, this is really dope, all right? So before I get started, y'all see the background, right? This is Venture Suite. So Venture Suite is a suite of ventures, but this is where you can host events, or if you need a place to work from, it's a co-working space as well. So you can check it out, 780 Mount Vernon Avenue, right across the street from the Columbus Urban League. And then I want to shout out Mile for those that have not downloaded the Mile app. It stands for Make Your Life Entertaining. So when you're looking for things to do, places to go, and food to eat, or if you need to post, promote, or sell tickets to your events, you can do all of that in one place on one platform. So check it out at mile.com. And yes, I'm excited to say it is Black owned, all right? So we're going to support Black here, and we're going to keep it going. With that being said, y'all, we're going to talk about our special guest today by the name of Robert E. Lee III. I'm super excited to have you on the show today, Robert. How are you doing today?
I am blessed, and folks say I'm blessed and highly favored, but I truly am. And actually, I'm also a member, of course, of Venture Suite as well. So, by the way, I thought that too.
He supported multiple Black-owned businesses, right? So we appreciate your support. I didn't say earlier that Venture Suite was Black-owned, but it is, right? So thank you for your support there as well and all that you're doing. And we're excited to hear that you are blessed and highly favored because we want you to share some of those blessings and some of that favor through your voice as a vessel to help others understand a lot of the things that you've been through and how you've accomplished what you've accomplished. So speaking of that, I'm more familiar with you than a lot of people, but I want you to just give us the background, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we even get into the business. Tell us a little bit about Robert. Like, where'd you grow up, schools you went to, so on and so forth. I know, you came from the state up north, but let's talk about that a little bit so we understand where you're from.
let me be clear. I'm a Buckeye today, but I am born and raised in Detroit, Detroit, Michigan. Moved here. Also, parents. My mom is still there in Detroit. My dad passed away last year, actually, this time last year.
My condolences,
sister.
Definitely condolences. Yeah.
Oh, thank
I remember you
thank
going up to spend some time with him. Yeah. So
okay, yeah. But yeah, grew up in Detroit. Born and raised. My family is still there. My entire family is still there, except for my closest family, my wife and my mother-in-law, and a couple of my wife's cousins, her aunt, uncle. But the rest of my family is all in Detroit. I came here to Columbus in the mid 80s. I came here to go to school actually at DeVry. It's called DeVry back then. Actually, it was called Bell and Howell back then. That's how long ago. Wow. Came here to go to school and ended up in the space that I'm in now. I guess I could tell that part of the story with our next segment, if you will. But yeah, it came here to go to school and ended up making this home. So yeah.
Okay. That's all right. And it's been home for some time now, huh?
Yes, since I think it was 85 or 88. 85,
okay.
85,
wow. Yeah.
Long time. Old man, baby.
He's an old man, something like that. Hey, that's distinguished gray that you got going on.
That's what it is. Yeah. That and worry,
A little bit of that, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that.
We will.
So, yeah, for sure. So listen, one of the things that we want to talk about today, for those that don't know, right? So Robert has been in the hospitality industry for a number of decades at this point. I think it's been a little over 3 decades. And you've worked your way up and through the industry as well. So one of the things I want to do is I want you to tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you get started in hospitality? Which led you up to where you are today? So give us a little bit of the background so we can understand the journey.
All right. So first of all, I've always had a love for the hospitality industry. I mean, I worked in a restaurant as a young man, and I'm a fortunate kid, come from a middle-class family. So I worked because I wanted to, or to go shopping. But I fell in love with the restaurant space. I worked at a restaurant called Cappy's. It's no longer there. It was on Woodward Avenue in the University District in Detroit. But always had a love for the hospitality industry. Came here to go to school, as I said. Had an opportunity to work part-time as a banquet houseman at a Holiday Inn on it's actually been several flags since that time, but it was on Stelzer Road, old Holiday Inn with a big hollow dome. I was 18 years old, and I actually was presented with an opportunity to become the banquet manager at that hotel. The banquet manager saw something in me, gave me an opportunity. He was moving on, gave me the opportunity, and so I became the banquet manager at this hotel. I was 18 years old. I remember, Brother Lloyd, I was making $17,000 a year, and you couldn't tell me. Like, I was like, I make as almost as much as I am, right? And I thought that was a lot of money at that time. I thought that was a lot of money, but so that was my entree. I set aside school, right? I didn't tell my parents right away either, right? That I had not been going to class. I'd been enjoying myself in this industry. Matriculated from there, worked a couple of different hotels. I ended up landing at a company, actually a hotel, the Crown Plaza Hotel. And I watched the general manager of that hotel, who I would call my primary hospitality mentor, Charles Lagares. I watched him as a GM form a management company to take over the hotel that he was operating as a GM to manage it as a management company. Watched him do that. I was there for the process, and I worked with Charles at that hotel for 15 years. He ended up starting a company, Columbus Hospitality. And I watched him form Columbus Hospitality. Many years later, 15 years later, I left Columbus Hospitality. I developed the entrepreneurial bug. A friend of ours, your frat, Jeff Gilliam, was doing this outstanding product. You'll remember Brownstone on Main. Jeff asked me to step out and work with him with his baby, Brownstone on Main. So I did that, stepped out, did that. So that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. It was Jeff's entrepreneur opportunity. I was one of many investors in it, but operated that as the operating partner, did that for just about a year, opened the place. We did very well. It was very successful early on. And then I left Brownstone, went back into the workspace, ended up the club manager at the Capitol Club. Ran a private club. So my background, I've been fortunate. I've had all kinds of experiences. Used to own the Linden Cafe for a period of time.
That's right.
Yeah. 11th. So I've been fortunate. Then moved into, because I tasted the entrepreneurial piece, working on Jeff's project. It got in me. I was one of those guys. I thought I would work for Charles forever at Columbus Hospitality, end up an executive in his company. That was my plan for myself. But saw what he did, thought I could do it. Tried it, stepped into a little bit, like I said, with the Brownstone project. Went back to work and ended up in a private club. Developed some great relationships in that space. Obviously, running a private club, a city club in downtown, and then Charles Lagares, Columbus Hospitality. We came together, and actually we started Touchstone Hospitality together. So I started Touchstone Hospitality as a subsidiary of Columbus Hospitality. And our original intent, we were going after, there was one hotel in particular that was in receivership at the time. I don't know if you remember the Concourse Hotel. That was the hotel closest to the airport. So we looked for an opportunity to operate the Concourse Hotel through receivership and then hopefully operate it for whoever the new owner would be. That did not materialize, but the airport authority ended up asking us if we had an interest in operating food service. And of course, my background, most of my time spent at Columbus Hospitality I was a restaurant manager, banquet manager. I started off as a room service manager. I was food and beverage director ultimately. Then I became the GM of the Lofts Hotel, it was a boutique hotel right next door. So my point is that my love inside of the hospitality hotel industry, I spent a lot of time, most of my time in food and beverage also, although I did spend other time in a few years in sales, a few years as a housekeeping manager. My passion was on the food and beverage side. So when I asked if we wanted the opportunity to get into food service, airport concessions, we said yes. But because it was just one outlet, one store, my first store was a Tim Hortons. Charles and I broke the partnership, and I ended up in the space myself, and have been very fortunate to operate when I had that Tim Hortons. I eventually ended up having 3 more Tim Hortons on the east side. So I built the one at near Children's Hospital and on Livingston. I built the one near Allen Creek on Livingston. I owned the store took over the store that was right in front of the Target in DCSC on East Broad Street.
That's
right.
I've been to that one a number of times.
Yeah, I had 4 units altogether. So got into that space for a period of time. Charles introduced me to Tom Kraus, who was president of Donato's at the time. He is now the CEO of Donato's, but he was president of Donato's. His wife was the CEO, and her dad was still chairman of Donato's. We talked about an opportunity for Donato's. I said, "Hey guys, give me a couple years to get my feet wet in this airport concession space," and then we did. We waited a couple years. The opportunity presented itself. We went forward. So our first location was the Southwest location in 2013. And then we opened a second location in 2018 in the Delta Terminal. I got out of the Tim Hortons space. So just for a period of time, I had both Donato's and Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons went through some parent company changes. So it was no longer beneficial to be a part of that team. Stuck with the Donato's, been operating for several years there. And I think what stimulated this opportunity is for us to talk here now is that in the last 18 months, I bought into HMS Host partnership at CMH. I am now a JV with HMS Host, largest food airport concessionaire in the world at John Glenn. So I'm a partner in, I think it is 13 restaurants in the airport, in addition to my 2 Donato's. So yeah,
that's what's up.
Yeah,
that's what's
piece
up.
of cake.
That's what's up. Piece of cake. Just having, hey, it was a 25-year overnight success.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Right. There you go. You did it. Right. Yeah. So, man. So first of all, thank you so much for walking us through that journey. Right. Giving us from the beginning, your entree, as you called it, into the industry, walking us through the progression. And obviously there was some ups and there was some downs in there, right? You talked about how a couple of things didn't work, right? So you have to make a couple of moves here and there. And now this major announcement, right? Which we saw the press release come out. And the fact that, this partnership, as you said, that you've been able to buy into takes you and what you're doing to a whole nother level. And it's super exciting to see you accomplish that. All right.
Thank you.
That is awesome. So do me a favor though, right? So we would just walk through that. A lot of people are going to hear this, and this happens all the time, by the way. You just walk through that and you walked us through the journey. But it's like there are certain things that happen along the way there, right? And by the way, before we go too far along, I still could taste food or remember the experiences from your different venues that you've been at, right? From the Brownstone, whether it was the collard greens and that fried chicken, you know what I'm saying, or the Capitol Grill, like the exquisite professionalism, right? Of opening that door as well, and that exposure to those that were grooming professionals to even have access, right, to the Capitol Club. So that was really like critical to see you there, leading the charge there. So I want to thank you for those opportunities, seeing you do the franchise piece with Tim Hortons and then Donato's and get into the airport. Like we're seeing this interesting because you're talking about the journey, and I'm like, man, I've been able to actually participate in those, but I don't think we understand the magnitude of what's happening. I think entrepreneurs we do, but I think as a general public, we don't always realize all of the steps that it takes to get where you actually are. Right. So I just want to say kudos for your progression and all you're doing. So,
Thank you.
but for those that hear that and still are like, oh, so he just did this and he just did that and he just did that. Do me a favor, right? Do me a favor and break down some of that. If we say, hey, what were some of the if you said the three biggest challenges or obstacles you felt like you went through as an entrepreneur growing in this space, in this industry, and then I want to flip it to the other side and talk about some of the successes that you've had as well, right? That came from some of those growing pains, as I would call it.
Right. So first I would say, and you know this, and anyone that's out here in the space, in the small business, whether it's restaurants, food service, whatever it is, I certainly had some opportunities and challenges. So I would say the biggest obstacle was myself, right? Fear.
Okay, break that down.
Doubt.
Do me a favor before you talk about that. I have to interject for a second. I do this on the shows, right? These are called gem drops.
Okay.
So when you start dropping these gems, like how you got in your own way, or you start talking about fear, you start to drop these knowledge and these gems. I'm gonna be doing this. I don't want to shock you when you see it, but the audience knows what that is. All right. So go ahead and drop those. I'm listening.
So one of my biggest obstacles, and probably still today, even with all the success we've had, is myself. I would say fear, doubt, and discipline. Right.
Wow.
But when I say discipline, there sometimes it's the lack of, right, in a particular area. So those would be the three primary things. The fourth would be circumstances or change, because all things change. With Tim Hortons, for example. So the Whitehall store, the store I mentioned, was on East Broad Street. Of my 4 Tim Hortons, that was the highest revenue generator. It was an existing store and everything. So I didn't have, I walked into it, took over the team. There was a team in place, all that stuff. And it was the highest revenue generator. Then DCSC decides to change the entrance. That entrance used to be right across the street from us. DCSC goes through an expansion and they open 2 entrances, one on Yearling and the other one on Stelter Road. They shut the doors on Broad Street.
Just like that.
Just like that. Overnight, literally overnight, everything changed at that location. The dining space, especially breakfast businesses like that, people make decisions based on their routine. And so once their routine changes, whether it's because they had to choose another location, another point of entry, it changed the opportunity for us to change the opportunity for me overnight. So instantly, I had that one horse, and I won't say which one was a dog, but one of the Tims was a dog. I had one that was doing all right. That was my horse, lost the horse, and so changed everything. But see, those are the things, and you know that circumstances, things change, right? Things change, and then you got to plow through them. You got to plow through it one way or another, right? So that was one. That was the dynamic relative to the Tim Hortons time. Then it was the fear. Let's talk about the fear part, right? One of my mentors told me about this airport concession space years ago, like all the way back when I was, working with Jeff in the Brownstone project, right? I didn't have an interest. I didn't think, and then of course I ended up in Tim Hortons. I didn't think that I was like, I'm fine dining. I'm private clubs and fine dining and upscale hotels. I don't want to do fast food. I was like, that's not my, Then, of course, the opportunity presented itself, and I ended up in Linden Cafe, right? That's a restaurant in an urban center, right?
Yeah.
That came with its own lessons. Love that place was probably one of the more beloved businesses.
Absolutely.
But that came with its own set of circumstances and challenges. Clearly, the location at that time too. Early for the Linden area. Lots happened over there. It's continued to thrive in the Linden area. So kudos to that whole everything that's happening over that area. But that came with its own challenges, right? Let's say then the Donato's opportunity, right? It's airport business. Great opportunity.
Right.
a fixed opportunity where there's automatic, all this volume, incredibly high rent. Incredibly high rent.
Mhm.
I can't even tell you what the rent is, right? I can't tell you, but very high rent.
Drop them gems.
Right.
Right.
So, great opportunity. Southwest, I believe Southwest is the busiest single airline. B is the busiest terminal because there's 2 airlines.
Okay.
But what Southwest is single business, the busiest airline. Then we did Delta. That was our newest store, Southwest. We learned the way we built Southwest, we learned what we could have done better. And we built the Delta store better, really aesthetically, smoother.
Right.
Delta. Well, Delta doesn't have the traffic that Southwest has.
Yep.
Spent the same money, actually a little more Delta than we spent in Southwest.
Yeah.
Traffic wasn't there. So, the revenues, aren't quite the same. Great business still a great business, but the revenues aren't the same as they are in Southwest. Right. So then you got to manage that process. So it's the whole thing of it's to keep the grind going, keep persevering, keep trying. And there's some personal dynamics that went into it. My father got sick and had to step in his space. My father was one who always took care of everybody. My parents been divorced since I was 2, but my dad always looked out for my mom, everybody. And some circumstances presented themselves in Detroit that I had to involve myself with, and ultimately it turned out okay. My dad was here with me for a while, for a couple of years, and it's great. So I mean, it's all encompassing,
right?
All of it. I mean, all these different things, they happen all the time, and you have no control over them, but you still have to continue to grind. It's I hope that was helpful. I mean, I can go on. I mean, failure. Failure. That's
go ahead. Talk about that. Yeah.
I mean, so and I won't get into all of them, right?
Right.
There's somebody watching who knows about all of them, and that's my wife, wherever she's watching.
Oh yeah.
But
Dawn is on. She's here somewhere with us.
Yeah, she's here somewhere, right? So a couple times she's like, "Babe, won't you go back to call Charles, see if he got." Why don't you call Charles? Go back to Columbus Hospitality, see
what he can do
for you, man. Go run one of his hotels, right? I mean, a couple times.
That's real talk right there.
Because there were peaks and valleys throughout this journey, right? What just happened is great, but I'm in a bit of a valley at right now relative to how the partnerships and stuff all work. Timing, we're doing a lot of renovations right now, and in the airport. And when you own something, renovation is an expense, right? Great revenues, but there's an expense. So there's peaks and valleys in this entrepreneurial space, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. But the failure thing is that the only real, this is what I would say, and this is not me, this is John Maxwell. The only true failure is not trying.
Say that. Can you say that one more time? What is it? The only
it's not mine. I wish it was. It's John Max. The only true failure is not trying.
The only way you fail.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way to truly fail, because you will fail and you learn some of your greatest lessons, brother. How many times what you learned the most in your journey, right?
Absolutely.
Through various failures, right? So it's failure is a teachable moment. But the ultimate failure is just not to try at all.
There you go. That is the ultimate, like you said. That's the ultimate failure, right?
Yeah.
Can't even live with yourself with that one. So, no, man. So listen, I want to say thank you for breaking that down, because there's a few things I always tell people, on the show is there could be one person that watches this message truly, truly resonates with. And I can guarantee you there are a number of business owners and entrepreneurs, whether they just started or they've been at this game for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, that's going to hear what you just said and understand that even someone that's achieved as much as you have, there have been peaks and valleys, as you just said it. And that is real. There is no perfect situation. It's not easy. Yes, there's some benefits to entrepreneurship, but then there's a lot of adversity that you deal with as well. And you just walk through some of the key components based off your experiences. So I just want to say thank you for breaking that down for folks as well.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Good stuff. So let's do this, right? So talk to us about next milestones for you, right? You just mentioned, you gave us a little bit of insight in regards to, guess what? Got the new partnership. There's some development going on right now. But if you looked at the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, what does that look like for you as far as some of the milestones you want to accomplish next, based off of where you are today?
So I'm fortunate enough. I'm very fortunate. The opportunity with HMS Host is huge, obviously, but I'm really fortunate to be a franchise partner with Donato's.
Okay.
It's a great brand,
Shout out to
right?
Donatos. Yeah.
And it's got great leadership,
Mhm.
and they are good people. I mean, it's just it's been a very good experience. Not always easy, but it's been a very good experience. And so that said, I intend
Mhm.
to continue to grow with Donato's. I
Yeah.
intend to look for other opportunities to grow Donato's, grow with Donato's. I'd like to stay in the airport concession space.
Okay.
I'm hoping that HMS Host, as a result of our partnership here, will create other opportunities for me to partner with them in other parts of the country. I was at an event called AMAC, Airport Minority Advisory Council. That's an organization. I want to encourage you small business owners, any industry that you're in. I want to encourage you to get involved with the different trade organizations, associations involved with them. I'm fortunate.
Okay.
I'm very much involved with AMAC, is Airport Minority Advisory Council, and I'm a member, and I'm also a member of the Ohio Restaurant Association. I'm very active with Ohio Restaurant Association, but those two associations, those two trade organizations are organizations that create opportunities for growth and learning, right, as well as networking. But so anyway, I'd like to grow that way, and then I mentioned John Maxwell earlier. Both my wife and I are certified John Maxwell coaches, teachers, and trainers. I did it back in 2017. My wife did it in the last 2 years, and she's actually grown a business out of it. And, as you know, my wife was in city government for a few years as the deputy chief for the mayor, but she stepped out herself 2 years ago and is doing very well in leadership development coaching.
I see her blazing. I see her blazing the trail.
Yeah, she's doing her thing. Yeah. So I'd like to create opportunities for myself by pouring into others and doing some training and coaching. Finding the time to coach is interesting because you got to be, your time management has to be very, very crisp and tight. So I lean more towards the training, doing teaching and training workshops is what I like to do. I like to do some speaking. I like to start with the industry that I've been in for 32 years, but I need to grow myself into that. So that's how I see. So growing with Donato's, this great brand, growing with other partners in the airport concession space, and then creating opportunities to get into coaching, training, and public speaking. Those are the opportunities I see on the horizon for me.
Outstanding. I love that, right? Like you have all this experience and then you have this other foundational piece on the leadership side. You can really pour in, as I think about it, you can pour into so many lives and have such a huge impact. So I'm gonna drop this plug for those out there because this is almost a segue into what we're gonna go into next. But anybody out there that's looking for an amazing, right, speaker that can drop some seeds and some knowledge to your audience, you need to reach out to Robert Lee and you need to go ahead and get him a deal so he can come and speak to your group. All right. So I'm out here listening for you right now on the spot. That's what we do. We support black businesses. All right.
Thank you.
So what he won't ask for, I will. Okay. So with that being said, so let's talk about the next piece. So you broke down some of the milestones. Obviously, you want to continue the relationship with Donato, the HMS piece. Hopefully that partnership leads to more opportunities, right? In bigger and greater spaces as well. And then obviously your speaking piece, right? So 3 key things you're focused on accomplishing as you look at your next milestones. So this might be a little bit hard for you, but we're just going to keep it real, right? The reason why we do this is we want to help support Black businesses, right? Too many times I've heard people say, we don't own nothing. We don't this, we don't that, we don't support, right? And a lot of times there's awareness or lack thereof. Right. Our goal is to make sure people know we use this digital footprint to create that. So what I want to ask everyone to do, is if you are watching this, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next year, because it's digital, it's going to live on the internet. I want you to share this with at least 3 to 5 people that you think this will have an impact on, right? They need to hear this story. They need to see this success. But more importantly, what we're going into next is they need to understand how we as a community can support you to continue so you can hit those milestones that we're talking about, right? So if you said, hey, here's 1 or 2 things that as a community we can do to help you achieve that, because the more and the better you do clear, the more impact you can have on our community. So how can we support you at this point?
So, well, thank you. So, the airport space is unique in that you have to be traveling in order for us to have opportunity to serve you. But when you're traveling, you know, and now I would say, you know, I guess I should encourage you first to go with the hometown favorite, right? Donato's. We're in Concourse A and Concourse C, Delta and Southwest concourses. But now that I'm a partner with HMS Host 2, I actually would encourage you. Most of the places that you would dine in the airport that are operated by all the Starbucks, the Land Grant, Burger King, which is pre-security. What is Great American Craft Tavern in the Delta Terminal, and PGA Grill in the Delta Terminal, Wolfgang Puck in Concourse B, and Auntie Annie's, the pretzel spot, and Bob Evans Express. So those are all the outlets. I believe I covered them all. That also in Chili's in Concourse A too. Chili's in Concourse A in the Southwest Terminal. So when you're traveling, consider when you support those outlets, you are supporting me and the opportunities that we have for my company, Touchstone Hospitality. I would also say how you can support me and people like me, people in the restaurant space, and I want to speak broader than airport concessions, speak about restaurants, period. In the last few years, a lot of restaurants have come online in Columbus, a lot of Black-owned restaurants, and some have had some great success. Some have had seasons of success, and some have not. What I would ask, one of the things I've noticed is when a restaurant makes a change or closes, I notice our response, this is just my opinion, our response on social media is we just start talking about all the bad things that we felt negatively about the business. My challenge with that is that I've never seen, like, there's a couple of Bob Evans that have closed. Nobody went online and started talking about it.
Said, right. What happened?
So I don't crickets, right? I mean, but somehow when our restaurants go, we gotta go. I feel like we go crazy on social media and start giving negative feedback about it's gone, number one. So what's the point? The other thing is too, this restaurant space is just not easy. I've been doing it for a long time and I've made mistakes. We talked a little bit about it, but I can go on. I can tell you some huge, challenges. And I'm not perfect operation now. I mean, I'm growing into this multi-unit operator, right? There's certainly been opportunities at the airport where I know guests have not got the experience that neither Donato's or I want them to have, right? And certainly with the other outlets as well. But be patient with us and share your challenges with the operation with the operator.
Right there.
Share your challenge with the operator, and give them an opportunity, to grow into whatever space they're trying to grow into. Now, on the flip side, I would also say for restaurant space, just because you got a good recipe or you think it's sexy, doesn't mean that you should be this restaurant space. If you've never done it before you step into it, go and do it. Go invest some time into spending time in the space. I'm not a caterer, right? So catering business is different, right? A caterer, you know what you're going to you prepare for who bought the product. The challenge a caterer has is they got to have enough of that business. They got to keep grinding. They got to create opportunities to sell. Restaurants, you can't control this. Hopefully 50 people, 100 people come tomorrow night, right? You got to have enough product for that. It's just different. I mean,
hard.
each space is different. And so kudos for trying, because I want to go back to, always try. But in this restaurant space in particular, I mean, everybody knows the statistic about the high statistics of restaurants that close.
Yeah.
There's another statistic, I don't really know what it is, but it's a very high statistic, very high number of people who open restaurants who never did it before. So it's part of the challenge, right? So if you've never done it before and you've just looked at it and you thought it would be sexy, you had the money, or whatever, or you had the opportunity, doesn't mean you should do it. It's just a challenge. And if you're going to do it, just like every other business, make sure you're capitalized right. The right amount of money.
Break that down again. Go back for a second. Don't skip over that too quick.
Yeah, that's a big one. Man. That's being undercapitalized. That's a big one, especially for the restaurant space. It's just a big deal. I mean, I tried to wait till we had $100,000 in the bank before we did anything with disbursements in the Donatos, the first Donatos we did. Tried to wait till we got that kind of revenue in the bank, no matter how long it took. That was the plan. We didn't quite do it that way for some different reasons, but we got very close to that. That was the right thing to do. So I had a plan that I had to come up with another source of income initially, right? Or do something to make sure you had the dollars there, right? It's being undercapitalized, especially in the restaurant space, it's a kiss of death. It just
real talk,
right? Yeah. But support by being supportive, and one of my late father-in-law's Warren Tylerisms, never missed the opportunity to say nothing. I mean, sometimes just never miss the opportunity to say nothing. That's how you can be helpful. I mean, sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So listen, one of the things that I want to say, so I'm going to put this challenge out to everybody else, but I always say we got to walk the talk. I travel a lot. I'm going to be very intentional about stopping by your restaurant and buying something while I'm at the airport, right? So I'm going to be very intentional. We have to be intentional about how we support each other, right? And I've known about, obviously, the Donatos piece, but now that it's expanded, it's going to happen because I'm always eating while I'm there, but I'm going to be very intentional and I'm super excited. And then so for everybody, like he went through them earlier, right? But I'm going to break them down, right? So you got the American Craft Tavern, Auntie Anne's, you got Bob Evans Express, Burger King, Chili's, Hangar 815, Land Grant Brewing, PGA Grill, Starbucks, and Wolfgang Puck Express, right? Yep. And then obviously the Donatos piece, right? So you have all those options. That's how we can support and make sure other people, when they go into the airport, say, hey, make sure you go to one of these restaurants, right? So you can support what this brother's doing. We've got to be able to do that.
Kevin, I'm be remiss. I need to say I apologize. I don't mean to throw you off, but
yeah,
I have a new partnership too that we're solidifying it today, and I apologize to my new partners. But if you haven't heard of Preston's, a burger joint, Preston's, it was in the North Market for a few years. We just moved into a bricks and mortar in Clintonville over the last 6 months. I'm a partner with Chef Matt Hegan and Letha Pugh in Preston's, a burger joint. It's in Clintonville. It's a great burger, a chef-driven burger restaurant. I'm involved with that. I need to toss that in there. If you want to be supportive to that great new outlet, we intend to do a few of those here in the local market over the next few years. Nice. And so, yeah, I just thought I tossed it in. I apologize to my partners that I almost forgot. Please,
Hey, the good thing is you did not forget, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. Right. So nice job, and I can't wait to go and check it out. I'm excited to be able to support, and I love burgers, so I will be there as well. And this is a shameless plug, but we need to get that location on Mile because there's things to do, place to go, and food to eat. And that way, when people are looking for food, that's one of the options that will come across. All right, that's what's up, man. So look, that was actually a great segue to the way we wrap this up. Right? The way we wrap it up is literally saying, hey, Awesome job. You shared a lot of great information with us. Hopefully people get a better understanding of your background, where you are and where you're headed, right? And then how we can support you. But last but not least is, sometimes we get ready for these interviews and it's like, man, I got to make sure I hit this, this, and this. Then you miss it. Then you're like, man, I can't believe I got on the show. I didn't say this. So is there anything else that you wanted to make sure was conveyed or communicated today that did not get shared yet? This is your platform, your opportunity, whether it's to share a nugget or a gem or to thank anybody or to recommend something. This is your time to wrap us up.
So first, I want to thank you, brother, sincerely for the opportunity to share. Right,
Absolutely.
Thank you. I really appreciate, and I really appreciate all the platforms that you provide. Period. Right. So I thank you not just for me, but for everybody who's you've engaged in this format and your multiple formats. Right, from Venture Suite to Columbus Black to Mile. So I appreciate you and thank you. Thank you, Columbus. Thank you, the city of Columbus. Thank you, the people here. Thank you. Thank you for being supportive. I wouldn't be where I am. There are a number of people. I remember I have to do a better job at determining and finding out who there are people who poured into me, right? But I need to find out whether whose names I can share, right? Because sometimes that could be uncomfortable for others. But there are a number of people who poured into me, literally poured into me. I mentioned Charles's name earlier. One of my partners, business partner, when I got into airport concession space, was Curtis Jewell, a local entrepreneur.
Shout out to Curtis. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's people who have been supportive of me along the way. I will say Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. I will say Donna James. I would say Janet Jackson. Man, I can go on and on. Man,
right.
There's just some brothers. Derek Clay. Mo Wright, young brother, young another serious entrepreneur. Actually, watching him it's been teachable. I got about 15 years on him, maybe 20, and that watching how that brother moves and his character has been a teaching piece for me as well. Friends and family, my Merrymaker brothers. I just want to thank everybody for being supportive of my journey thus far. And probably the most important person I want to thank is my backbone, my agent.
The one that sent me the press release.
Yeah, the boss, the real boss, right? Dawn Tyler Lee, my mother-in-law, Joyce, her mom. Rolling with me, in my organization for a period of time on the HR side. I can just go on and on. Of course, my people, my team, my staff. Kevin, Carmen, more recently Tiffany, Teachy, Annie, Rashawn. I mean, I can go on, but a bunch of people. My team, thank you.
That's what's up.
Yeah, man. I mean, if I miss someone, I apologize because there's been so many people. I mean,
and I was going to do that for you, literally, because I know how hard that is to actually start sharing some names. Like you said, think about it, 30, 35, 32, 35 years, I think it is, right? Of you doing what you do. There's definitely, 35. So there's been a lot of people involved. So if he missed your name, trust me, right? He meant to say it. It's just a lot right now, right? And I did that off the cuff for him. So I'll put him on the spot a little bit. So we're going to forgive him for that in advance. But really nice job of obviously highlighting some of those that obviously had an impact. But thanking everybody that really has been a part of your success and pouring into you. And now what I want to do is I want to say we want to allow him to thank us in advance because guess what? We're going to keep pouring into him every little bit we can, one at a time, so he can continue to be successful. And then for me, I said at the beginning, the cool part about it is for me, it's full circle because you poured into me and my business years ago, right? And continue to be supportive. So I appreciate you for doing that because it's not like I had to ask you to do it. You just did it. You advocated, and that's a really big deal. So thank you for that. All right. So here we go. So listen, I want to thank you again for coming on the show, right? This is some content that needs to get out there so it could change many lives. But if nothing else, I'm sure at least one life is going to be impacted by the information that you shared today. Thank you so much for that. Wish you the most success, right? Continued success with your journey and your endeavors. So, all right, y'all, we're going to wrap this up, right? I want to thank you all for joining us. This is available on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. Make sure you get the links, y'all. Y'all can share this link. So if you're watching this, you can just share that link to your social media platforms. Like I said before, tag some friends, some family members. They need to see this. This is going to go out to our email database over the next 24 hours. In case they missed it, it's still going to go to them. They can watch it at that point in time because we want to spread this word, but we need you to do your part. With that being said, if you're not a member of ColumbusBlack.com, join the family. It's free. All you got to do is go to ColumbusBlack.com. There's going to be a pop-up that comes up after a few seconds. Join our mailing list. That way you never miss out on anything like this again, right? As I mentioned earlier, Venture Suite is one of our sponsors, so you want to go check it out if you need a space to work or you really want a very nice spot where you can actually host an event. You need to check us out at venturesuite.co. Want to make sure you download the Mile app for things to do, places to go, and food to eat. Or if you have an event, you can host, post, promote, and sell tickets all through one Black-owned platform. And we're about to introduce some really new cool features to you all real soon. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up as we always do. In order to be more successful in your future, you need to understand a little bit more about your past. That's the reason why we just had Robert E. Lee III with us, and we just had a blast. With that being said, y'all, I'm out. Have a good one.